Hey friends, Lauren here. Before we dive into today's episode, I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware that the content shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional advice in any field. We want listeners to know we are neither endorsing nor discrediting any other podcast we mention in today's episode, just simply information sharing. We hope you enjoy our chat, and be sure to also follow us on Instagram at Our First Rodeo Podcast. Welcome back to Our First Rodeo Season 2, Episode 2. I can't believe we kept on with our promise to weekly show up. Well, actually, we missed last week, didn't we?
Mm-hmm. We did. A lot happened last week.
Yeah, it did. Last week, I mean, for me personally, I needed a week to grieve the loss of my grandmother. That was hard, and I couldn't really talk about things without crying yet. So that's what I was doing last week.
No,
What
we
were you
love you,
doing?
Mama.
I know.
And I know that's still probably like hard to talk about, but I know how special she was to you, and it's hard losing someone who's a part of your village. So, and I know she was really close with the kids, and the kids loved her, and so giving you a big hug across the screen from Texas.
She was just really was one of those people that everyone loved. No one could ever say a bad thing about that woman, ever.
Mm-hmm.
And even my brother, so I have two older brothers, for those that don't know, one that's 8 years older and one that's 4 years older. And I'm the youngest. So my middle brother, he sent an email afterwards. I forwarded it to you. Did you read it?
I did, and
were you crying?
Yes, so I read it, and it was very emotional, and she just sounded like a true Southern belle.
She was. And I think what shocked me the most was seeing that side of my brother, that he was so, emotional. But I loved that he put it down in writing, how he was feeling. Because it basically, he wrote an email just describing our mama and what she meant to him, just to be a way to get his feelings out there and his way of grieving. And I loved that his way of grieving and my way of grieving were the same, because I hadn't really seen that from him. And I just thought it was a beautiful tribute to her. I would share it with everybody, but he doesn't have social media, and he probably doesn't even know I have a podcast. So that would be a violation of his privacy.
Well, y'all do have a family of writers in, like, because you've told me that your mom loves to like write down her feelings too. You love to write, and I think it's kind of special that you got to see that side of your brother. But also, I did not plan this segue, but it's like a perfect segue to sharing that you are going to start writing a book this year. That's part of the news of last week. I know. I'm sorry. I'm putting it out there.
I know. And I really want to put it out there. I'm scared. I'm scared that nobody will want to read a book that I write. I'm scared that I'm not a good enough writer to write a book. I'm scared that my story's not interesting enough for anybody to want to pick it up. And I'm scared that people will think, why does she think she needs to write a book? If I'm being honest, like, that's how I feel. But I have to put all of that to the side and do it for me. It's not for anyone else. The book is for me, because it's a goal of mine to write. I mean, I was a PR major in college, and anybody will tell you that's in PR that you're writing. That is what you're doing with PR. So I am so excited. I have an editor, Lacey, who's amazing, that reached out to me, and she is going to walk me through the whole process. I actually have a due date of something tomorrow, and I have not even started on it.
Oh my God, I love it. Well, and just to kind of like backtrack on what you were saying, how you're scared, I think anyone going into it would feel the same exact way. But everyone has a story. Every single person has a story, and no one person's is more important than the others. And yours is very important. And like you said, it's for you. And the great thing about art is what a lot of people don't realize is art in writing or painting or writing a song or making something, if you're not doing it for you, then it's worthless. The beautiful thing about making art for yourself is that once it's done, it's a gift to you, and it can be a gift to others who need it as well. But if it's a gift to you at the end of the project, then it's worth its weight in gold, and it's invaluable. So I think
That
just
was
look at it.
beautiful. That
Thank
was
you.
beautiful. This is why we're friends.
This is why we're friends.
Yeah, I think I need to gain some confidence, but
Yeah.
I'm definitely not very confident right now. But that's it's just kind of who I am. I care a lot about what other people think to an extent. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, yeah, whatever. But I don't know. I worry, but it's okay. I got
Yeah.
this.
You got it. And it's your
And
first time doing something like this. And
yeah,
anyone would, I think, be feeling the same way. But it's like,
yeah.
do it scared.
Yeah, like our friend Jamie said, she was like, "Well, Tara just ripped the Band-Aid off for you." I was like, "She did." I was like, "And sometimes we need somebody to do that." And that's what she was saying. She was like, "It's
Yeah.
a good thing."
Yeah.
Because sometimes you just need somebody to, like, put it out there for you. So you did that for me, so thank
Well,
you.
and I did kind of ask permission a little bit. Like, you
You
didn't tell
did.
me not to,
You did. I
but
didn't say, "Yes, go ahead and post it," but you said, "I might." And I was like, "Tara." And then you
uh-huh.
did. So,
Yeah, I did. I know.
I know.
Well, and it's you've already gotten such great feedback and kudos and just applause from people who saw it, and so it'll help give you a little boost to know that you've got this.
I know. But then what I think about is the people that are probably rolling their eyes. And why do I let that bother me? I don't
Yeah, there's
know.
gonna be people rolling their eyes, but don't let people, especially strangers on the internet who know nothing about the hard work you're doing, stop you from doing what makes you feel good and allows you to use your talents to help even just one person out there in the world.
Yeah. You want to get into, so we talked at the end of last episode that we were going to talk about the telepathy tapes
Yes.
for this episode. So have you, Tara, listened to anything or watched a TikTok or any of those things?
No, and I've seen like some opinions coming in from our Instagram account, like here and there, but also we had friends that like had reached out to us and shared like their in-depth perspective, and I purposely like haven't listened to it yet because I really wanted to come into the episode like as someone who hasn't heard anything from the actual podcast, hasn't done any research, and kind of pick your brain on your whole point of view and how you're feeling about the podcast. And then you said like you went and paid for the test. So
Yeah. So when I first started listening to the telepathy tapes, I had no idea like what it was about at all. Um, and this was back in, I guess, December, maybe November. So I was mind blown. I still am. Um, I think that the things that some of these kids are able to do is absolutely incredible. Um, but I have a problem with putting pressure on a community to perform.
mhm.
So I feel like with the telepathy tapes, in some of the episodes, it was saying that all non-speakers hold this ability to read minds, to, you know, travel within their minds to other places, things like that. And it sounds crazy if you haven't listened to the podcast, I know. But some of these stories are real stories of kids doing this.
Mhm.
And do I believe that the parents and the kids telling these stories, it's mostly parents because the kids are non speaking, but they are able to, spell to communicate. So they're able to communicate that they can do this. Do I think that they're lying? No. I think that they are absolutely telling the truth. I believe if they say that they can do this, that they are doing it.
Mhm.
But one of the things that bothered me was it would say that all children who are non speaking are able to possess this gift.
Mhm.
And for me, I was super excited at first
Yeah.
because then I was going home and because I listen to the podcast when I'm driving. So then when I would get home, I would sit in my room and think like in my head, I would be like Channing, come here, or like
Yeah.
say things to Channing in my head,
Yeah.
and or I would do it beside of him. And I felt like I was putting pressure on him, but
Mhm.
also pressure on myself, wanting to see him, showcase that he can do this.
Mhm.
Now, do I think he's shown me at times that we have a deeper connection
Mhm.
than, you know, anybody I've ever had a connection with? Yes. And I
Yeah.
think that you would say the same with Rob, that sometimes
Absolutely.
there's this non-communication communication, like not I guess I would
Absolutely.
say nonverbal. I don't know, it's like weird kind of
Yeah.
connection.
Well, I've talked about this for years, how it's like Rob and I, like, we can feel each other's energy. We can connect on a way deeper level. And it's just a different kind of connection. And I do think it's a little like spiritual. Like
Mhm.
our souls are just like we're 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 matching each other's, you know, energy a lot of times. Um, and I think that is something too where it's like connection is communication.
Mhm.
We're allowing ourselves to connect on levels without words, without conversations. And so I think you really can kind of like form that bond.
Mhm.
But I absolutely agree. I think what you're saying is so on point. It's like we're not saying it's not possible, but it's the pressure of it all, especially to like a new parent who's like, "Oh, okay, like here we go." And then thinking, "Well, my child doesn't have like the superpower, you know, kind
Yes.
of autism because it's not working for us." And it's
Right.
like,
I feel like
"Okay,
we've already so
another."
disappointed in so many things sometimes, like, of what they can and can't do yet, that it's hard because we're putting this pressure like, "Oh, well, they're gonna be able to do this," and
Mhm.
then they might not be able to show you at the time. And, the podcast talks about how they learn to show their gift, and it sometimes takes time and shows in different ways. And I fully, believe that that is correct, but I don't want parents just feeling sad again when their child isn't able to, communicate with them telepathically.
Yeah.
um because and maybe they are, and, that's the thing, it's so
Yeah.
I don't like blanket statements.
Lauren and I, when it comes to autism and like new information, like we do not die on any hill. So we're not saying it's not possible. We're not saying it's
And we're not
possible for
talking about the hill that they talk about on the podcast,
Oh,
because
yeah,
Tara
you
hasn't
told
listened to the podcast, so she doesn't really know about the
well,
hill.
I remember you told me about the hill a little bit, and I was like, "What?" And
Well, I
I
don't
was
want
thinking,
people confused that we're saying we're not gonna die on
"Don't die
any
on the
hill.
hill."
Nope, no, not the hill.
Yeah, so Lauren, she did share with me that in the podcast they explain that a lot of times our kids and maybe I'm wording it wrong, so interrupt me if I am. But they can like in their minds leave and go to another place and like meet other non-speaking kids on this place that they've called the hill.
Mhm.
And I was like, is that why Rob wakes up laughing in the middle of the night at nothing?
Okay, and it's funny you say that because Channing 1,000%, mm, thousands of nights had thousands. I
That
mean, has he even
probably
lived
at
thousands? I
least
don't even know at this point.
yeah,
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 yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, we're good.
yeah.
I'm like, "Wait, hold on." I word vomit sometimes. But has woken up laughing, and even when he was an infant,
Mhm.
he would be in the bed, and I remember I took videos of it and showed our pediatrician because
Yeah.
he was,
Baby,
like,
like, he's a
9
Rob
months old,
yes, yes,
giggling, laughing in the bed, and I was
yes.
like, "Is he having a seizure?" Like, I
Is he
wasn't
having
sure. I was
no.
literally not sure if he was having a seizure. Like,
Yeah. No,
I
and I
I
was
didn't know.
yeah, and I was thinking, is he, like, dreaming of something funny?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it was very
I was worried, like, I you know what I mean?
yeah.
It was now I love it because 'cause I'm like, as long as you're happy, I'm great. Like, keep laughing.
Exactly, and that's why, like, do I think that they could be going to the hill? Yes, but I don't know, and I don't want Channing to have to perform for me anyway, to, like, show me
Mhm,
that,
mhm,
and not saying that these parents are making their kids do that, not at all saying that. Um, I just don't wanna put unwanted, unnecessary pressure on our kids, on
mhm,
parents,
mhm.
on our community, um, because there is, like, the other side of it, because 'cause I've researched now all about, like,
Yeah,
what's
so
going on.
okay, so you listened to the tapes, and I remember you were like, "I'm excited about this." Like, you listened to the not the tape, the podcast. You were like,
Mhm.
I'm excited about this. This is like makes so much sense." But like as anyone does, okay, let's do a little research and like background. So, what happened after you listened to the podcast?
So I listened to the podcast and was definitely, like, I thought I was sold. As the podcast went on, it got a little bit more out there for me. There were some episodes about, like, time travel and, um, I can't specifically remember because it didn't have me as enraptured as I was the first few episodes.
Mhm.
And there's an amazing episode on spelling and spell to communicate. I think it's episode 8, and talking about how this is a valid form of communication and these voices need to be heard. And I
Mhm.
am
Mhm.
on board with that completely.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Lauren and I
there,
both like look at spell to communicate as a valid form of communication.
yes, it is a valid form of communication just because I have seen that with my own eyes.
Mhm.
And I have, no doubt that these kids that were, spelling on the podcast are, um, you know, it is totally valid and real.
Mhm.
But so afterwards, once I got into like the later episodes where they were kind of going a little bit more out there, so it was kind of like hard for me to wrap my brain around. And they said that in the episodes. They were like, this is going to be hard for some people to wrap their brain around.
Mhm.
And I was like, yeah, I am some people. And I don't like being a skeptic, but I also just like to see it with my own eyes. And I know
Mhm.
that that's not always like a great way to be because I am very religious person too. And can I see Jesus with my own eyes? No. So like,
Mhm.
I understand all of the different sides of that. But so I went to the website because it says you can watch the tests. So I go to the website, and first I was really surprised that you have to pay to watch the
Mm.
tapes, which is
Mm.
only $9.99. So it's only $10, but they didn't say that.
Yeah, and not to interrupt you, but that is right there is a trigger for a lot of us parents because we, especially the new ones, like on this journey, you'll reach at anything to help your child and you'll pay almost anything. And then you start to realize a lot of these things are just, scams, or it provides so much like false hope. And so when you go and you see that you have to pay, it can be like a trigger for a lot of parents.
Yeah, and it was for me in a way that I felt like, well, dang, I'm already here on the
Hmm.
website. I've
Hmm.
I've made it this far, so I want to see,
Hmm.
but now they're asking me to pay, and I don't remember them saying in the podcast that you were going to have to pay.
Hmm.
Um, so I clicked on it and I put in my credit card, paid, and then the test came up, and all of the tests, it does have like maybe
So
20.
the tests, are they a test that you take, or are they
No,
videos
they're
that you are?
videos of them, do because in the podcast, they do a lot of testing with the kids to
Hmm.
show, or some of them are adults, but to show what what the telepathic powers are. So
Hmm.
they're doing it with a room full of people, and they're talking to you on the podcast saying, the mom is sitting here, the son cannot see her. We have a blindfold. They're like describing the layout of the testing.
Okay.
And so then on the website are the videos
Mm.
of this testing
Okay, so
so
you're
that you can.
watching now these children or adults communicate, with their minds, with their mom.
It's a lot of times it's the mom.
Okay.
Um, so when I get in there, there's like 20 videos that you can watch, but they're all like 30, 40 seconds long. So,
Mm.
and maybe one or two of them were like a minute or 2 minutes, but they were very short clips. And it says on there, there's a disclaimer that says you can, like, the longer clips are going to be available in the documentary film. So they're working on a film, and the $10 is basically like a donation to the film
Oh,
is
okay.
what. But again, I
Hmm.
felt like it wasn't exactly what they had said on the podcast. And so when I'm trying to watch the tests, I'm just as I'm getting to like, oh, okay, I'm about to see it, then it was over because
Oh.
it was short clips of the test. It was only 30 or 40 seconds. So I'm like, okay, I'm believing this because I'm seeing it with my own eyes. And maybe that one just wasn't a fluke or something, and not saying that they're a fluke. I just, in my mind, I'm wanting to believe. But
Hmm.
when I'm
Hmm.
watching, I'm not getting that feeling that I got when I listened to the podcast. Because when
Yeah.
I listened to it, it all sounded like so real. But then when
Yeah.
I watched the test, I wasn't as sure. I'm not saying that it wasn't real. I just
Hmm.
wasn't as positive as I
Hmm.
was when I listened to the podcast.
Yeah.
And maybe though, when I see the documentary film, I'll feel a
Hmm.
different way. I
Yeah.
don't know.
That's the
Um,
beauty about like us not, dying on the hill, no pun intended,
oh
is
God, don't say the
we
hill. Any, just dying on any opinion.
Yeah, because like we remain open to information always, right?
Hmm.
So it's like, sure, change my mind. Sure, show me something different or new.
Yes.
And but it's our job to then take in that information and with our discernment figure out how we want to either keep it as information or like apply it to our lives or
Hmm.
talk about it with other people to like get comfortable or uncomfortable with it. So
Yes.
I totally understand what you're saying. It's like, this is how you were feeling, but you're not discrediting any of the people in the test videos.
Right. Right. Like
Yeah.
I am not. Yeah. These parents, their stories and stuff that they were telling about the different experiences that they've had with their children reading their minds, like I was like, "Yes, yes.
Mhm, mhm.
I am positive this happened with you." I just wasn't as convinced with, like, the testing that I saw.
Yeah.
But again, I only got to see little bits of it, which also
Mhm.
was like, "Well, why are they only showing little bits of it?" But,
Yeah.
um, I do think that the podcast is I love that it's giving attention to non-speakers. I love that it's giving attention to autism, to
Yes.
spelling,
Mhm.
to, putting away those rumors of that
Mhm.
this is not a valid form of communication. I
Mhm.
on board with that. Yes, I am
Mhm.
right there, and I think you would be too if you had listened
Mhm.
to it.
Yeah.
I will we asked our Instagram community to
Yes.
give us some feedback. And I was surprised because at first, this was before I had even watched the tests.
Okay, so
So
yeah, because you were excited when we talked about this last week, you were coming off of the podcast, like, totally, like, jazzed and excited and, like, drinking the Kool-Aid, you know?
yes, yes. And so then we asked our Instagram community, and it was it was a divide. And I was real that's when I started doing more research
Yeah.
because I was like, well, man, there's a lot of people that are not so sure. And
Mhm.
then there's a lot of people that are in it to win it 100% positive, So,
Yeah.
and that's what makes things hard is when it's like two
Yeah.
sides of, you know. So let
Yeah.
me read a few. I'm not going to tell people's names because I said I
Okay.
would keep
Yeah.
it anonymous. Um, because one person that reached out, she was telling us a lot of the the bad things about the podcast, was saying that there were, just some people that were not credible sources. But then I would read articles that were like a rebuttal to an article saying they weren't credible, and
Mhm.
they were like, this is why we are credible. So it's so hard. I would really encourage people to do their own research, because I feel like either
Mhm.
way I was being swayed. I felt like
Yeah.
a wave going
Mhm.
through my research, because
Yeah.
it was like, one second this person's got me, the next second this person, I'm like, yep, you're
Yeah.
right, nope, you're right. I don't know.
Yeah.
There's really a lot of ways to see this. Um,
Yeah.
but okay, so one person said that they they 100% believe, the telepathy tapes is real.
Mhm.
Um, that it was mind-boggling about all of the children that have been experiencing this for so long, and whenever they brought it up to their spell coach, their
Mhm.
son's spell coach, his response was, "I've known about this since 2016, and I've wondered every day since then, why is this the world's biggest secret?" And so this person,
So
this spell
this is a mom that wrote to us talking about her practitioner. Okay.
right. Yes, and he was saying he's not on the podcast. He's not,
Yeah.
he was just saying, yes, he's known that this is a thing, and he's seen it in his practice. And he explained that it is not something you openly share with the parents and your clients because it is so wild. He said
Mhm.
he waits for his clients and parents to realize it for themselves and to start asking questions. And
Wow.
that's when he'll start so that I'm like, okay, well, I heard this on the podcast too, because
Yeah.
people were coming in on the podcast saying, they didn't want to bring it up for fear of sounding crazy, but
Mhm.
this is what's happening. And I don't think these people are crazy. If
No.
this is happening for them, I believe you.
Mhm.
So that I found amazing.
Yeah.
Um, Somebody else said, at first I liked it. No, excuse me. At first, I felt like I didn't like them. It felt like it was going to be only showcasing non speakers, knowing the number of an Uno card someone was looking at. As it went on through, It turned into a beautiful story about non speakers, their caregivers, and the importance of giving those non speakers a voice. It pushed my husband and I to pursue typing for our 8-year old. Telepathy, is it real? I have no idea. What is real, though, is that these non speakers are in there, need to be respected, and need to be heard. And
Yeah.
a thousand
That
percent.
yeah, and that just makes such a beautiful point because it's like the great thing about this podcast, as you were saying earlier too, is like it opens up the communication to presume competence in a different kind of way, to not, you know, discredit these children and just cast them aside as, oh, they don't know, they can't hear. And yet the power of yet can change. You know, they can't speak yet. Well, guess what? Maybe we change that yet to they can't communicate yet. And spell to communicate is their voice. So it's like that's kind of what that mom, what she was saying makes me think of. It's like we're open to believing in our children, and we will use any information we can get to then, like I was saying, discern and either keep it or apply it
Hmm.
and see what happens.
Yes. Um, a lot of this one said, obsessed with telepathy tapes. It gave me so much hope, so exciting. I believe in it 100%. So excited to know my babe will one day communicate through spelling and eventually telepathy, which that one made me scared
Yeah.
because that's my fear
Mhm.
is that we're we might be putting false hope in people because what if not all
Mhm.
children have this power? You know,
Mhm.
I don't know. That
Yeah.
just made me
No,
scared because I don't know. That just
I agree.
like
Well, and it's kind of like on another level with do you remember when like Channing was first diagnosed? I would have people kind of like say, "Oh, my second cousin's sister was diagnosed with autism and she's fine now. She has a job, she da 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 da." So like don't
mhm,
worry about anything like so it's kind of like, "Oh, well that's going to happen for Rob." And I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but that's why I think when our kids get older and they're not showing us that they're going to be able to like live alone and hold a job as an adult, it can really do damage to how we continue to presume competence in other ways and
mhm,
for them. You know what I mean? So it's like, sure, that information of that second cousin's sister is great for me to have as a reference, but I'm not going to like put Rob the pressure, like you were saying, on Rob to
mhm,
do all those things on that
mhm.
timeline.
Yeah, it's like for me, so many people were, by the time Channing's 5, he's gonna be talking. By the time
Mhm.
he's 8, he's gonna be talking. No one ever
Mhm.
told me after 8. Like, I've
Mhm.
never heard a number after 8.
Mhm.
But 8 was the oldest. Well, we've hit 8, and,
Mhm.
we're about to be 9, and I feel like for the longest time, that's one of the reasons I hated birthdays is because so many people had put a number on when he was gonna be able to speak, and
Yes.
we were getting to that number, and it wasn't happening, and that's my fear with this, just like what you said. Um,
Mhm.
it makes me nervous and sad, and I when I wanna be hopeful, you
Yeah.
know? But
Yeah.
we all have our own story and all have our own path, and I just want people to remember that and to focus
Yes.
on their story and path and not be thinking about these
Yeah.
other things that are happening to other people.
Yes. And it's like create the mantra like when you do start like putting that pressure and comparing your child to other like autistic kids or adults, come back to like your reality and let them lead. That should
Mhm,
be like our guide, is let them show us, let them lead in their own way in their own time, because our
mhm,
children are not all the same, and they're going to
exactly.
do amazing things and show us who they are if we let them.
Mhm, absolutely. I'm reading another message. I wanted to make sure. Somebody said, I love this podcast. It gave me so much insight into my son's brain. Even if I'm not sure he is communicating with me in this way, it has made me more conscious of communicating with him and trying to be in tune with him constantly. I think it's beautiful to think how every kid is so different, but they are so smart and aware that I believe they all communicate in their beautiful ways. And that's what I hope people will take from this is
Yes.
is more this, perspective of
Mhm.
communication in their own way,
Mhm.
and I'm glad it's made her more aware of her own conscious to be constantly thinking about what she's thinking, what she's
Mhm.
feeling towards her son and others,
Mhm.
um, and I think that's beautiful. I
Yes,
just
because I do believe that even if like Rob can't read my mind, he can read and feel my energy. So if like I'm depressed, my body, eh, eh, my body language, like
Mhm,
it surfaces like into the air, and
mhm,
I know it brings Rob down when that
mhm,
happens. Um, so yeah, it's like I 1,000% love that this has opened up people to being more conscious of, well, we don't know what they can or can't feel or tap into, but it it kind of makes us want to think more positively about our children, right? If we're not already, like,
mhm,
and go about our day doing, being the best version of ourselves that we can be,
mhm,
so that they feel that positivity coming through us, which is not going to happen every day. Believe me, I just went through like
mhm.
a depressive episode.
I know.
And it they feed off of it. So any other
Mhm.
messages that are like,
So this one that was more on the negative side was saying
yeah, yeah, let's read
that
it.
it's very frustrating and I feel it's super harmful. They are doing this to our kids, making them feel forced to do something they may or may not be able to do. I feel it's something they often, sorry, there she's using her child's name, so I was trying not to say it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but she's trying to say that they haven't researched it well enough and feels that it's
I
giving
can
false hope to others. Yeah.
I can understand how, and like this is what I was saying, like I can understand how someone hears about this or sees it, and based off of their lived experience with their autism journey with their child, on an automatic like trigger, and it feels harmful, it feels not real. Like I can see how that is like an instant reaction, but
Mhm.
that's why I think it's so important. Like, I don't know, it's it's like any like radical topic, or it's like any topic where there's like radical sides of the spectrum, right? It's like either all in or all out. I think it's so important to take information from both sides and hold it. And you don't have to form a belief, you don't have to form a hard opinion. But I think for me, at least, the healthiest thing I have figured out to do is like take it in, and when I'm ready to think more about it, or if I've learned enough to where I do want to form an opinion.
Mhm.
So, but I completely understand people's like off the jump feeling of
Mhm.
either all in or all out.
Got some other
What?
ones.
Oh no, what?
So it sure is interesting. That's what they said, which is funny. Somebody else said, "It completely blew my mind and honestly renewed my faith in God."
Oh,
Which I love that, and it did
yeah.
feel like there was a lot of, Christianity, like, braided in
Mhm,
there, and I did
mhm.
like that.
Yeah.
It seems outlandish, but I absolutely believe and have experienced these things.
Wow.
Um, Very mixed feelings, loved some aspects, and others kind of irked me.
Mhm.
I'm a mom to 2 neurodivergent boys. It completely blew my mind, absolutely mind-blowing. is kind of wild. um, I've listened to 2 episodes and I'm blown away by this, and that's really how I felt at episode 2. So episode
Okay.
1 and 2 will totally, like, have you in, but then, like, this person says, "They lost me on episode 4. I don't deny it, but don't buy it 100%." And that's kinda
Fair.
how it started feeling at some points because it was reaching a little bit. But I get it's a podcast and they're having to, stay entertaining and, see all different sides of it. So, I
Mhm.
I I get what they were doing. Somebody else said, "I don't think there's enough actual impartial research, and I think suggesting our kids are the X-Men hurts true lasting inclusion. Treat my kid like any other kid, but did I mention she reads minds and talks to the dead? Yeah, we need real research to help our kids." That's an
Okay.
interesting,
Yeah,
which
and
I mean, I agree with some of that though, like treat them
mhm.
just like a regular kid. And that's what my fear is when people are saying all non-speakers are telepathic, like are we going to start treating them differently
Yeah.
because we think,
Yes.
treat them
It's
with, respect like you do anybody, but
mhm.
don't look at them and be like, what am I thinking? You know?
Yeah, and if they can prove themselves, do they get more support? Do they get more accommodation? Like, do they get more in life? More
Yeah.
opportunities? So I get that where it could like snowball into something really great or like very like segregated within the
Mhm.
community. So
Yeah, it's tough,
it's
but
tough.
because really looking through these messages, a lot of them have kids' names mentioned, so that's why I can't read them because 'cause I'm scared I'll
Mhm.
slip up and say somebody's name. But it really is divided, and do I want any more division amongst our community? No.
No,
No,
God,
I don't want
no.
that at all. Um, so I say, listen to the telepathy tapes, you know, form your own opinion, do your own research if you need to, but it is a beautiful story. These children and adults are beautiful,
Mhm.
and it's truly magnificent what some of them are able to do, but also don't go home thinking that your child's going to be able to read your mind immediately just
Yeah.
because these kids did it on the telepathy tapes. And a lot of these kids are older. It's
Mhm.
taken time for them to understand and be able to show what they're doing, so I still really don't know where I am. I'm like, I'm
That's what I was
tiptoeing.
saying. I think that's a healthy place to be. I think a lot of people think not knowing or not having an answer is not where you need to be, and I think that is such a healthy place to be because especially in this world of autism, we're constantly learning new information. We're constantly pivoting in our day-to-day lives with regular life. And so I think it is a really great place to be, at least for me, like and that's the beauty of
Yeah.
this world where we all have our different thoughts and
Yeah.
experiences.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Experience shapes my opinion. I think it's a great podcast to listen to. I think, that I can't wait to see the documentary film because I'm
Mhm.
such a visual person that I
Yes.
do wanna see things, um, not to critique it by any means, but just
Yeah.
to see it.
Yes.
I wanna see it with my own eyes and, experience it on a more visual level. Um
Same.
Wanted to mention since we were talking about, like, the spelling thing,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
Channing just started Spell to Communicate, and
Mhm.
I told you that at first, I was just not
Can I
sure, but
yeah, can I say, like, as your friend, how you for months and months, Lauren's like, "I'm just not there. I don't think that this is, I don't get it. Like, I'm treading lightly. I'm not all in." Um, and I love that you started there because I think that's a really real place to start, and you allowed yourself to hear and learn from a lot of people before trying it.
Yeah.
So, what made you ultimately like decide, okay, we're just gonna take a whack at it?
Betsy on the go, Joey.
Yes.
um,
Betsy, we love Betsy so much. Oh my gosh,
Betsy
Betsy.
is incredible. She is so well spoken about her son, and
Mm,
Joey is. I love him so much. He just makes me happy to watch
mhm,
him.
mhm.
Um, and she posted something about him spelling to them. He's been spelling for a long time now, and we're only 5 sessions in.
Well,
So,
Joey's
you know
Joey's only been spelling, I think, maybe a little over a year.
Oh,
Is
really?
Yeah, so he's like I think 31 or something. And so that's what she was saying, is that, for all these years she felt like he didn't know these things. And then they started Spell to Communicate and just changed everything for her.
Okay. Okay. I thought he had been spelling for a while, but this it makes it even more that makes it even more incredible that he's only been doing it for a year.
Yeah.
But he is older, so, he already has learned how to spell and read and stuff.
Mhm.
He just hasn't been able to show people that, but I know he knows it. Just like with Channing, he's only 8, so his kids in his school, they're, just now doing, sight words, and so all of these things that we're asking him to spell, they're learning at the same time in school. So, I always want to remember that he shouldn't know, how
Yes.
to, spell like supercalifragilisticexpialidocious or something right now,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he's
And
still
at
a
this
baby.
age, yeah, and at this age when they start spelling, or at any typically at any age when they start their Spell to Communicate journey, it does start like this. And as they get older, right? And as they get more comfortable with the board, that's when it goes into something called like open communication, where they
Yes, and we're
can
not
like,
there yet.
yeah.
Yes. Okay, so Betsy on the Go had posted that Joey had spelled some feelings about Betsy, his mom, and his sisters. Okay, so he has 2 sisters. Channing has 2 sisters. And it felt like when I saw that video, I was like, I'm I must do this for Channing. I need him to tell his sisters how he feels about them one day, whether it be sorry,
It's okay. I know this is,
whether it be, you know, now, which would be amazing, but even if it's 30 years from now, if he can tell them one day how he feels about them, it would it would really it would it would make me leaving this earth a little bit easier for me. Um, not to make it about me, but Um, I just wanted to know that he one day would be able to tell them how he feels, or, even just communicate with them in different ways, because going back to the telepathy tapes, I feel like him and I communicate on,
mhm,
a different level.
yeah.
But, I don't know if he experiences that with his sisters, or if they yet, I mean, they're babies.
Mhm,
But I guess it just really pushed me
yeah.
to want to do that, for him to just see, because I never wanna close off opportunities for him to communicate, and I
Yes.
thought if the Spell to Communicate was something he would be interested in, then I would try. If he was not interested in it, if he wasn't showing that he was happy during the sessions and things like that, it's not something I would continue with,
Yeah.
because like you said, we follow their lead.
Mhm.
Um, so the first session, we found a practitioner here in Charlotte. She is amazing. She, I have never heard somebody speak to Channing the way she spoke to him when she first
Mm.
walked in.
Oh.
She was so confident in him. She was just like, "Hey, man, so I know you already know how to do this, but we're going to sit here and do it anyway. And you're going to show me what you know. And I might teach you some things, but you'll probably teach me most things." The way she was talking to
Mm.
him, I was like, "Can I clone you? Like,
Mm.
this is how I want everyone to talk to him." Just like a lot of her questions weren't asking for an answer. They were,
Mhm.
"I know you're excited for Santa to come," because this was like the week before Christmas. So
Yeah.
she was like, "I know you're excited for Santa to come. And do you have you told Santa what you want for him to bring you? Oh, I bet that you're gonna get," like she was just
Yeah. It wasn't like a
talk
test or an interview.
no. It was just like this beautiful conversation she was having with him, and he wasn't saying anything at all, but they were having a conversation together. I could feel it.
Oh.
And, I was like, "Okay, well, you passed the vibe
Yeah.
test. I love you." Um, and so they sat down, and at first, he was kind of, like, giggling and laughing, like, "What are you doing here?" Because they were sitting on his crash pad. Because we tried to just, like, go to him. We didn't want him to
Mhm.
have to move from where he was at the time, and
Mhm.
wanted him to be the most comfortable, which it wasn't great for his posture. And now we've moved to a chair, but, we're slowly getting there with the sessions. Um, but he was sitting there, and she was like, "All right, well, we're just going to start with a pretty easy word for you," which I love. Again, like she's just
Yeah.
already presuming so much competence. And I'm like, "I don't know if he can spell. Like, don't make him feel bad if he doesn't know how to spell." But she was like, "He's good. He knows." And she was like, "We're going to start."
Not to interrupt, but you also knew that too because he had that random, like, just spelling his name for you that one day where you just were like, "Oh my god."
I know, which I just posted that reel last night because I
Yeah.
was thinking about it, and I was like, that
Mhm.
was such a special moment. And that was just like a
Mm.
year ago.
Yeah.
Um, and I had no idea he could spell his name, and he just grabbed
Yeah.
that pencil, just wrote Channing, and which was the exact same thing he did with the pencil for the first session, Spell to Communicate. He grabbed that pencil, and I'm thinking like, "What's he gonna do with this pencil?"
Yeah.
You know?
Chuck.
I don't know. A lot of times things get thrown in our house. And he picks up this pencil, and it's got like a sharp tip to it. And I'm like, "Oh, God, duck and cover."
Yeah.
But he grabs it, and she holds up the stencil. And, when you start with Spell to Communicate, it's the 3 boards. So
Mhm.
it's the alphabet split up on 3 boards. And she, sticks the board in front of him, and he immediately goes, he takes the pencil, and he tried to write the letter C within the letter C. So he went to
Yes.
so she had asked him to spell color. I don't remember if I told you what she asked him to spell.
No. Mm-mm.
So she said, "We're gonna start with an easy one, just because today we're gonna be talking about colors, so I'm gonna have you spell color." And so he grabs the pencil, he jabs straight for the C, and, like, then he starts tracing it. And
Mhm.
that's one thing we're really having to work on with him with the spelling is he's so used to tracing because that's what they do at
Yeah.
school. They
Mhm.
trace a whole lot of stuff. And so he was confused at first as to why he was just poking and not like actually tracing the whole letter. But he spelled color without her using, because I'm watching it, and so I'm
Yeah.
thinking, like, is she gonna be manipulating that board? Is she moving any sort of way? I'm being very critical because
As you should.
I yes, and, he spelled color so fast, like, she even had to, like, slow him down. She was like, "Okay,
Oh my
okay,
god.
take a minute, take a," 'cause and I was just like, and I'm sitting there crying. I'm like, "I wish
Yeah.
I would have videoed this because I wanna remember this forever." And
Wait,
I
is it on your Ring camera?
no, because the Ring camera that was in that room was in the shower at the moment because he had been
Oh,
playing in the bathroom.
dang it.
I know. So, I was like, "Oh my gosh, man." But, he spelled during that first session, he spelled color, nature, courage, world, tired, yellow, and blue.
Oh my God, Lauren.
And ask me how I remember all of those words, but I will never forget those words because those are words that he spelled. And sometimes it took him a little bit longer. He was kind of getting dysregulated in the middle of working on things because, and she was even saying, she was like, I'm sure your body is really tired. And,
Mm-hmm.
he kept having to sit up straight and he wanted to be like slouchy. And, I mean, it wasn't perfect by any means, but
Yeah.
me watching him, I know that he knew what he was spelling and he knew how to spell. And I am
Yeah.
confident in saying that, you know, I don't think it's going to be a year from now that he's openly spelling,
Mm-hmm.
like open ended spelling where he's not answering a question, where he's, spelling his thoughts. But I
Yeah.
think that will come. But
Yeah.
it might take several years, and I'm prepared for that. Like, even if
Yeah.
it takes 10 years, that's fine. I've gotten him started, and I know that this is a way that he can hopefully communicate. And they're not all great sessions.
Yeah.
With anything, it's up and down. The last session, it took 30 minutes before
Mm-hmm.
he was even like interested in doing it. But then by the end, he was, spelling great. But he was so funny. The last session, he was so over it. Like, he just really didn't want to be doing it. And it was because last Monday, he does spelling on Mondays, and it was Martin Luther King Day.
Yeah.
So he had the day off from school. So it was kind of like out of routine. He was not feeling it when he sat down.
Yeah.
And he kept looking at Olivia and he was like, "Bah, bah."
Oh. Oh my
And
God.
she was like, "You want me to go by?" And then he took his little hand and did his gesture towards the door. He was like
Yep. Mm-hmm.
gesturing her out the door. And she was like, "I mean, you're so sweet about it, but no, I gotta stay." And he was like, "Bah, bah." And then he looked at me and he grabs his talker and he hit on his talker, "Bed." And I was like, "No, you can't go to bed." I was like, "You
Oh my God,
stinker. You're gonna sit here and spell."
I love him so much. Well, you
Yes.
know what I think it's like too, comparing, like, it's comparing it to something that we can, you and I relate to. I think it's like working out, right? Like the first day you work out, you're like so motivated, you're so
Mhm.
excited, like you're so hype. Um, and then the next like workout, right? Or the next session, you're like, I'm fucking tired. Like my muscles
Mhm.
are sore. I'm over this. Or, you know what I mean? And it's like getting into a routine, learning something new. So I
Mhm.
feel like that's totally normal to have like on and off sessions like that for
Yeah.
sure.
I just didn't want people to think that it's all rainbows and butterflies with spelling
Hmm.
because it's certainly not. Um,
And a lot of times the first session doesn't go great either. So it's
mhm.
like, take that into consideration too.
Yeah.
Okay, I remember telling you, and I probably sound like a broken record with anyone listening who's followed me for a long time, but I remember telling you you needed to watch The Reason I Jump. And like a lot of us, when we're not in the headspace to watch something like that, we're just not in the headspace. And I 1000% get that. Um, but it's on Netflix. You need to watch it because that was, gosh, I think in 2019 when it came out. And this was before the Spellers documentary that came out like a year ish ago. And that was my first like exposure to seeing Spell to Communicate. And I remember just being so blown away at the open communication that the adults, because they're autistic adults, were showing and sharing. There's an amazing story that the mom like kind of intros her son, and she's like, we had been doing speech therapy for years and years and years, got nowhere, saw nothing with um verbal speech, with AAC, and she was about to quit with his speech therapist, and she was like, well, let me try one more thing. And as soon as they started Spell to Communicate, it was like a light bulb went off.
It's
And
crazy.
you can like hear the story, because I'm probably not telling it well, but I recommend you watching it now that you're in this
Yeah,
place.
I know. Maybe I'll watch it now. I never watch any of the documentaries or anything
I
because I'm always
know.
scared I'll compare them to my life so much,
Mhm.
which is like the telepathy tapes. Like I
Yep.
I get into where I'm just like, well, where do I see this in my life? And then if I don't see it, I get upset. So, but yeah, maybe I'll watch it because you have raved about that one for a while.
I know. It changed everything. Like that's what made me, that was my experience that made me presume competence, and just shifted my whole mindset.
Mhm.
And I don't know, like just gave me this fire
Mhm.
for believing in Rob in a way that doctors don't really guide you, and because I was so new to this
Yeah.
world. But I'm just so excited. We're definitely going to be wanting to hear like more about this journey.
Yeah.
So I can't wait. Channing's going to do amazing things, and I know he's going to be able to tell his sisters one day, and you, and the village, the whole flack pack,
Yeah.
um, how he feels. It's going to happen.
It was funny though because Olivia, his practitioner, she was like, I was like, so when can he openly spell with me? Because after the first one, I
He
was
was
like,
like,
when is that
"Whoa,
gonna happen?
whoa, whoa,
And
whoa."
she was like, it might be like years from now. She's like, but he will
Mhm.
get there. And I was like, I just want to just know like what he's thinking about everything. I just want his opinion on me, on, like all the things. And she was like, well, I'll tell you what's funny is sometimes kids that I have worked with and adults, they end up, telling their parents what they think. And sometimes the parents don't want to. She was like, it can be a little awkward. I was like, oh shit. What if Channing's like, you are a crazy.
Channing's gonna expose you.
I know he's going to be like, Mom, you can't sing. Stop doing that in the car. I'm not laughing with you. I'm laughing at you. Like, stop. Your jokes aren't funny. I hate your voice. And da, da, da. I mean, it's going to be he's gonna
I
he's gonna
You're
probably
gonna love
like
that. You're gonna love if he can tell you
roast.
that.
I'm gonna be roasted by Channing.
Oh,
I can't wait. Roast me, buddy.
right? It's like, God, I pray for the day Rob
Yeah.
roasts me in his own way.
All right, we've
This
gone over our time.
We've gone over our time. Okay. Well,
Well, what were you about to say though? I'll let
I
you.
don't know. I don't know. I just kind of lost it. But we are going to be together on start Friday. Lauren and I
Hmm.
are going skiing with our husbands. They
And
invited
this is the
us.
first time our husbands are gonna meet, which is so fun. We're gonna have a fun weekend.
It'll be a fun weekend. They're both little social butterflies, I feel like.
Hmm.
So, we need to find out if the hotel we're staying at has a cold plunge because
Oh my gosh.
I got to stick with it.
I
I
know
got to stick
Tara
with
gonna
my
be
morning.
she gonna be vlogging up and tell you right.
Gotta vlog that morning routine. Um, no, I'm so excited. This is actually, I don't need a routine on vacation. I don't need that because I'm on vacation, but I might. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I know they do have a hot tub, so I'll be doing a hot plunge.
And
But
I really, did you see that? They have like scalp massages. I've never got, I want to do it. I want to do it.
yes. Oh, for sure. Like let
And
them
also, I just need
in
to make
this
sure
head.
too. Yeah.
Oh,
And
love it.
I need to make sure I got all the right like gear. I'm afraid I'm gonna get like frostbite, so I gotta.
You're not going to get frostbite because Chad, every day something new arrives on our porch from Amazon that's like hot chilies, thermal underwear. This
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this? I'm like, how like are you planning to like hike Everest? Like I'm so
Yeah,
confused why you need so many layers.
I am
So you can
Chad
borrow some
in
of his.
yeah, I am Chad in this relationship because John's like, no, I got gear from when because he was in the military and stuff. So they had like all that stuff. He's like, no, I'll just use that. And I'm like, you don't want to like look cute and get new things?
Is
Like,
John gonna be like
so
camouflage?
no,
Well,
no,
he's
he
army
has,
gear.
no, his thermals are like that, like army olive green, kind of thing.
Ooh.
But I did get him because you told me to get waterproof socks, so I got we
Mhm.
got things, But yeah,
Yeah.
John's like, no, I'll be fine. I'm like, you're not gonna be fine. So I'm ordering things for
No,
him.
borrow some of Chad's. We have so much.
No.
I literally said to him yesterday, I was like, nothing else is gonna fit in that suitcase. I mean, he's
Wait,
great because he's buying me stuff too. Like, so
yeah.
he's helping
Hmm.
me, but
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean, dang, he is,
Mm,
but he loves this kind of stuff. This is his
yeah. Yeah.
thing.
John's so excited. Like, and I'm like, I think we're on the same page. We're like, okay, we'll like ski for like an hour or two and then go shop
I
and
want
drink
to
a
opera ski. Am I even saying that right? Opera ski.
après ski. No, it's opposite. It's kind of like, so a pre ski, or however you say the word, means we can do that, but after ski. So a pre
Yeah.
means after.
Yeah.
No,
So like
we're
go
like,
ski real fast and then come and opera ski.
no, 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 no. Like these people who, no, the people who après ski are like, they are there to ski and that's what they want to do. And anything else has to happen after ski or it doesn't happen. You and me we're like, no,
We
everything
just want to
before
opera.
ski. We just want to operate.
We just want okay, I got it. Just want to operate. Don't want to ski. Maybe a little
Yeah,
ski. Operate mini
maybe a
ski.
little ski, maybe a little, but
Little
I'm
little ski,
afraid.
mainly opera.
Have you seen those viral videos of like bears chasing skiers down the mountain?
No, but
That's
if
what I'm
that
afraid of.
happens, that's gonna happen to me. I mean,
I-
if it happens, it's gonna happen to me.
You know
Like
what? In all seriousness, tell Chad to order some bear spray. We got to travel with bear spray when we ski. I'm dead ass.
bear spray? They make that? What is it? Do make you smell like what? Like what do bears
No,
not want to smell?
it's like a pepper spray, I think, for bears. But here's the
Oh, I
problem.
thought I was gonna be spraying myself with bear spray.
Nah,
I was
girl.
like, make me smell like what the bears don't want
No,
to smell. I'd be
no,
like,
it's
hey
not
bear,
it's not a
hey bear.
mosquito.
Okay, that's what I thought. I was like, oh, you don't like me because I got my bear spray on. Okay, no, okay, sorry. That was not what I was expecting. Okay, bear
No,
pepper
no.
spray. Got it.
Bear pepper spray. So we're
Is
gonna
PETA
be
gonna come after us though? Is that like humane to spray a bear in the
yeah.
eye?
Because yeah, it's like us getting pepper sprayed. We just go wash our eyes out and then go about our lives.
Mm, God,
PETA's not
sounds
no.
awful.
And I don't anyway.
I'm like, oh God, the poor bear.
Oh,
But I mean, I
okay.
guess
You
I don't
don't
want to
want
die.
Have you seen The Revenant? Have you seen that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio?
Mm-mm.
Don't watch it
No,
before our
no.
trip. How about ask
Oh
Chad
God.
about it? Say, Chad, did you see
Mm-mm.
that movie where the bear attacked Leonardo DiCaprio?
Mm-mm.
Get bear spray.
No.
Yeah,
Okay.
don't
Now
watch
I'm
it before our trip.
scared.
I know. That's why I don't like to swim in the ocean. Sharks.
I told you I don't do the ocean either. You know how
I know.
to know if there's sharks in the water.
We catch me at the beach, not the
Yeah.
ocean. Oh my gosh.
So I'm
Okay.
just gonna be
Well,
operating and
yeah.
it's gonna be great.
Yeah. I'm going to operate up in the lodge. Oh, it's going to be so much fun. I hope we're saying that right. Someone who's French is probably like, these Americans know
Oh
what they're
gosh,
saying.
my accent, it's cringy to everybody, so it's fine. Okay, so on the next episode, we don't know exactly what we're talking about yet,
Yeah.
but we have some ideas.
We have some ideas, and
And
we can recap our trip too, because we'll probably record it a week from today. Well, we'll probably record it Tuesday. No, well, you're going to be okay. So John and I cannot stay. Lauren and Chad are staying 6 days, but we cannot stay that long with our childcare situation and just John's work too. So we're going to be there 3 days. So you might not be able to record next week.
we'll record, we'll figure it out.
Opry podcasty. So you could ski Opry podcasty. Right? That's a
Something like that. I don't know.
Oh god.
All right. But tune in next time. We hope y'all enjoyed this episode, and you can leave us a comment, leave us a review, let us know what you think about it.
Yeah, a little extra long this time, but we have gotten feedback that they like longer episodes. So hopefully this was
Hopefully.
worth it.
Hopefully. They're going to be like, just kidding. We don't like longer episodes. Take us back to
Shut
15 minutes. Could you
Shut your
please shut
traps.
up? I know.
All
All right.
right. Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.